We have our newly elected Member of Parliament for Brampton, who received a record result in the most recent election, Amarjeet Gill. We have our Shadow Minister of Seniors, Anna Roberts, and the future Member of Parliament for Mississauga East Cooksville, Mohamed Ishaq. Merci beaucoup tout le monde d'être ici aujourd'hui. Nous sommes ici afin de continuer notre campagne, afin d'éliminer toutes les taxes sur l'essence pour toute l'année. Évidemment, les libéraux ont dû céder à notre pression conservatrice pour suspendre une des 3 taxes sur l'essence pour 1/3 de l'année. Ça va économiser juste 10 sous le litre, mais il y a encore 2 autres taxes fédérales qui s'appliquent à l'essence qu'on doit éliminer aussi. La nouvelle taxe carbone qui s'appelle le standard pour les combustibles et le TPS qui s'applique toujours. Donc, nous voulons éliminer toutes les taxes pour toute l'année, pas juste 1/3 des taxes pour 1/3 de l'année. Et c'est pour ça que nous sommes ici aujourd'hui, afin de dramatiser notre campagne d'éliminer les taxes. Donc, on va encourager le gouvernement de reconnaître que les Canadiens payent trop à la pompe, payent trop pour la nourriture, payent trop pour le logement. C'est assez, les gens devraient pouvoir payer moins. C'est ça notre approche conservatrice. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here. This is a very awkward microphone, but I want to thank Suki and the team for including us. As you see, we're here today to continue our campaign for zero tax on gas. As you know, there are 3 taxes the government collects on our gas. The Liberals have only temporarily suspended one of those 3 taxes. We want to get rid of all 3 to save 25 cents a litre, $1,200 a year, $20 a fill-up, because Canadians have been paying too much for too long. Conservatives are on a mission to make Canada affordable at home, safe at home, and strong at home. We want to restore the promise of Canada, where anyone who works hard gets affordable food and homes on safe neighborhoods in a self-reliant Canada. We want families to shuttle their kids from soccer to school and back without worrying about emptying their bank accounts. We want farmers to fill up their tractors and combines to grow affordable, nutritious food transported on trains and trucks powered by abundant energy so that grocery stores can shelve their supplies at a low price for Canadians. We want it to be mundane again for you to fill up your tank. We don't want you feeling anxious while you watch that price ticker rise second after second. That's how life used to be in Canada. It used to be affordable. You used to be able to fill your shopping cart without emptying your bank account. We used to be able to buy a nutritious, delicious food, not having to downgrade our diet or buy unhealthy processed foods because that's the only thing we can afford. But after 11 years of these Liberals, the things we used to take for granted are now completely unaffordable. Our food banks saw nearly 2.2 million visits last month alone. In Toronto, 1 in 10 people are eating at a food bank after 10 years of Liberals. It's no surprise Liberals increased taxes and doubled the money supply through rampant inflationary money printing, something that has only worsened under Mark Carney. Carney promised he was going to reverse everything he had said and that his party had done for the prior decade. It's no surprise that that was just an illusion to get him through the election. After a full year of Carney, we see that he is doing exactly what Liberals did prior. More costs, more crime, more corruption, more of the same. Despite the illusions, Mark Carney is just another Liberal. He said he'd spend less. He's spending 7% more. He's added $90 billion of net new spending above and beyond promised savings, with 2/3 of that new spending going to day-to-day operations, not to long-term capital investments as he promised. He doubled the deficit. The deficit today is twice as high as what Justin Trudeau left behind. It is hard to imagine that Mark Carney could be even more irresponsible with your money than was his reckless predecessor. Government spending as a share of the economy is now at a 30-year high outside of COVID, and Carney is running the biggest deficit in Canadian history if you exclude the COVID years. The C.D. Howe Institute now says that Canada can no longer pride itself on a strong fiscal position and the government must reverse direction on spending. Carney said he'd get rid of bureaucracy. He has since added, in just 1 year, 12 new agencies, departments, government corporations, and other bureaucracies. He told us that we would build at unimaginable speeds, yet his own housing agencies says housing construction will be down by 18%. And speaking of building, he has, a year in, he's not removed a single anti-development law or tax that Trudeau put in place. He has not approved a single pipeline, nor has his major projects office approved any project of any kind. And as for the pipeline to the Pacific, which he promised almost a year ago, there is no permit, no route, no investor, no builder, no start date, no end date, and no oil to put in that pipe. In fact, the only company in Canada that could conceivably build that pipeline says there will not be enough oil to put in it because Carney has kept all the liberal taxes and bureaucracies and anti-development laws that prevent us from increasing our production. He promised to give us the fastest growing economy in the G7. He's given us the only shrinking economy in the G7. Household debt under Mark Carney is the worst in the G7. Food price inflation, the worst in the G7. Housing costs, the worst in the G7. Unemployment, the second worst in the G7. All this was before the tariffs. But after promising that he would negotiate a win on tariffs with the United States by last July, here we are, and it's almost a year later. There's been no win. In fact, American tariffs have doubled on aluminum and steel and tripled on Canadian softwood lumber. Instead, he's done nothing, while the Americans have now increased tariffs and broadened them to include all products that contain Canadian steel, not just on the steel itself. Now it's getting very hard to even keep track of what Mark Carney's position is on the United States. On the weekend, he released a ridiculous video in which he held up a tiny figurine comparing himself to an 18th century war hero. He said that our trade with the U.S. was a permanent weakness. And then, later in the week, he said that we're stronger together with the U.S. He says that we're in a permanent rupture with the U.S., but later in the week, his own ambassador testified that our relationship with the U.S. is a net economic benefit. And he says, his ambassador now says, after the Prime Minister claimed that we were in a permanent rupture, his ambassador says it does not mean abandoning the very, very important and valuable relationship. It actually means growing it to our economic benefit. So which is it? Does Carney want a permanent rupture, or does he want to grow economic integration? He doesn't even know, a year after being elected, supposedly, to lead us on that question. Now, why is it that he's saying opposite things in the same week? Is it because he doesn't know what he's doing from one day to the next? Or is it because he's using sensationalist words that he does not mean to make headlines and distract from rising costs, crime, and corruption here at home as a result of his own Liberal government? Let's be clear. Mark Carney's idea of a permanent rupture with the U.S., our biggest customer, and replacing it with a strategic partnership for a new world order with a dictatorship in Beijing, a regime that he said a year ago was the biggest threat to Canada, is nothing more than an illusion. These contradictions all span just a few days, and it shows that we cannot trust him to keep his word. He won't answer questions in the House of Commons because he knows that his illusions will be exposed, and because he does not want to defend the remarks he made just days ago that affordability is the best it's been in decades. Here's the reality. Rent has more than doubled in the last decade. The cost of food is up more than 40%. Beef, 70%. Mortgage costs up well over 70%. The Prime Minister has never been more out of touch, and Canadians have never been more out of money. Parents who have to put items back on the shelves because they can't afford them at the grocery store know the Prime Minister is wrong to say affordability is at a decade-long high. Seniors living on fixed income who choose between eating and heating know the Prime Minister is wrong to say affordability is getting better. Those who line up at food banks, the hundreds of thousands of Torontonians who now have to go to a food bank every year, they know the Prime Minister was wrong. Youth who still live in their parents' basements rather than getting married and having kids know the Prime Minister is wrong on affordability. Every Canadian who's paid their bills under this Prime Minister knows that he is wrong. it should not be a surprise that he got it wrong again. After all, Mark Carney has been wrong about every single economic issue of the last decade. He was wrong to support carbon taxes, wrong to support money printing that led to massive, rampant inflation, wrong to oppose our oil and gas, wrong to oppose the pipeline to the Pacific, and he's wrong again to claim affordability is getting better. He's also wrong to only bring in a tiny half-baked, half-measured on gasoline prices. Other Western countries are getting rid of all of their taxes. You know, we see the Irish, the Australians and others actually bringing real relief to their consumers in light of higher international oil prices, while the Prime Minister only brings in 1/3 relief for 1/3 of the year. Under his plan, Canadians are forced to continue to pay 15 cents per litre every time they gas up, even during this short-term suspension of the excise tax. Conservatives, by contrast, want to get rid of all three taxes. We want to get rid of the tax on the new carbon tax, which he calls the fuel standard, and the GST on fuel. Because we understand that Canadians need to get to work, they need to take their kids to sports. Our plan would save you $1,200 for the rest of the year, $20 for each fill-up, and a full 25 cents per litre compared to the previous situation. By contrast, Mr. Carney would keep 2/3 of those taxes in place. Now, we know that government needs revenue, so we have a plan also to make up the lost revenue. We say the government should get rid of the wasteful $90 billion ALTO plan. It should close the tax loopholes and offshore tax havens that allow tax dodgers like Brookfield, the Prime Minister's company, to avoid paying taxes. By the way, I find it ironic that he says he can't afford to get rid of all the fuel taxes, but we somehow can afford to allow his company to be the biggest tax dodger in Canada. We would cut bureaucracy, consultants, foreign aid, corporate welfare, and handouts to fake and phony refugees, which would more than make up for the lost revenue that would come from getting rid of this tax. So we go forward with our mission to make Canada affordable at home, safe at home, and strong at home. And let me just work with my team here. We're just going to demonstrate our plan to get rid of these taxes and ensure that Canadians can afford to gas up, to get groceries, and to live a good life. So let's show the difference. Help me out. So this is the temporary tax relief that Carney's brought in. We want to have permanent tax relief by getting rid of the new Liberal carbon tax, which he calls the fuel standard. We also want to get rid of the GST. We're going to do this on the other side as well. On veut pas simplement éliminer la taxe d'assises. On veut éliminer la nouvelle taxe carbone que M. Carney a introduit, et on veut éliminer le TPS sur l'essence pour le reste de l'année. We'll go over here and cover it on this side as well. So Mr. Carney has temporarily suspended one Liberal tax. We want to get rid of the new Liberal carbon tax, which is currently 7 cents a litre, and we want to get rid of the GST on gas, which is roughly 8 cents a litre. That means getting rid of all the taxes for all of the year and saving Canadians 25 cents a litre. That's how we're going to make life more affordable and give Canadians the relief that they deserve. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. On est prêt à prendre des questions. Thank you very much, everyone. We're happy to take your questions now.
Thank you. We'll now take questions from reporters. Please identify yourself and your outlet. One question, one follow-up.
Okay, Nathaniel Dove, Global News. Thanks for speaking to us today. Erin O'Toole told Global News yesterday that you need to moderate your position on culture war issues in order to compete with the Prime Minister. Will you take that advice? Or,
like what?
These are O'Toole's words, sir.
Like what?
An interview with my Ottawa bureau, sir.
Right, but you said there were issues in particular. Do you have any of those issues?
He says that some of these issues, I don't, sir. This is questions from my colleagues in Ottawa. But do you accept the premise, I guess, from Mr. O'Toole? Will you change anything going forward?
I don't know what the premise is.
That you need to moderate some positions on culture war issues, if that's
well, let me put it this way.
whatever it is.
Let let's talk about my position on the issues. The reason we got 2.5 million more votes under my leadership in the last election than under the previous election was because of the wildly popular positions that I did take to get rid of taxes on fuel, to clear the path for affordable home building, to lock up criminals, to secure our borders, to bring in immigration sanity. I think it's time that Mark Carney moderate his position on the issues. He's doubled Justin Trudeau's deficit, which was already extreme and radical, to $80 billion a year. He's given us the worst food price inflation in the G7. He's kept all of Trudeau's anti-development laws. He continues to have a weak border that allows illegals to be in our country, endangering our people. These are the positions that need to be moderated, conservative positions to make Canada affordable at home, safe at home, and strong at home are the mainstream moderate positions that are overwhelmingly popular and supported by Canadians. Thank you.
And another issue for Mr. O'Toole. He told Global News yesterday, saying your party association with some conservative social media influencers is the biggest gift to the Liberals, that if it continues, his words, it guarantees you'll lose the next election. How has your party's association with influencers affected or even hurt your electoral process?
Well, I think one of the reasons I got 2.5 million more votes in the last election than we had in the previous election is because we talk to everybody, and we including people who want to get rid of taxes on fuel, who want to have secure borders, lock up criminals, and make our country affordable, strong, and safe at home. And we're going to continue to talk to everybody.
Jeremy Borg from the Western Standard. I'd just like to get your reaction to the new LNG pipeline approval in BC today.
Oh, finally. It took them forever. This is an expansion of an existing project that took far too long for the Liberals to consider. Unfortunately, Mark Carney has kept in place all of Trudeau's anti-development laws. We need an oil pipeline to the Pacific, for example. It's now been a year, and the promised pipeline to the Pacific for oil has no permit, no path, no investor, no builder, no start point, no end point, no starting date, no ending date. And Mr. Carney is requiring that the Alberta taxpayer fund a $20 billion carbon capture project that has never been done anywhere in the world as a condition of eventually approving that oil pipeline. I would get rid of the anti-development carbon tax that Mr. Carney has in place that is making it impossible to produce enough oil to put in the pipeline. I would get rid of C-69, the anti-development law, and C-48. I would eliminate that so that we can legalize the export of oil off the northwest coast of BC. That is how we're going to diversify our trade, unlock and unblock our resources, get a stronger dollar and a more independent and sovereign economy. Thank you.
And just following up on that, you've said in the past that the Liberals are anti-gas industry development. Is this signaling that they're going to be more pro-gas moving forward?
We'll see. I mean, 10 years ago, there were 18 LNG projects proposed across Canada. Only one of them has so far been completed, and that was approved by the previous Harper Conservative government. So there have been lots of announcements, lots of press releases, lots of news coverage about bureaucratic busy work, but not a lot of results. So it's time to turn the illusions into reality. Ultimately, what we need to do is get the federal government out of the way, because these projects are wildly profitable. They pay for themselves. They do not need government assistance. What they need is the government to get out of the way and let the builders build, the investors invest, and our energy to reach the world.
Hi, Scarlett Grace with Rebel News. There still haven't been any arrests made for any of the synagogues shot at last month in Toronto, nor for the U.S. consulate. Do you think the RCMP and CSIS are taking this seriously enough?
No, I mean, there have been rampant terrorist attacks on the Jewish community and on, frankly, people of faith across this country. I think there's something now like 200 church burnings that have happened. And where are the arrests? Why aren't people being locked up for this violence and terrorism on our streets? It is almost as though they're not taking it seriously. We need a real plan to lock up terrorists. Those who are not citizens or permanent residents need to be deported from our country. We need to restore the safety and the tranquility that we used to take for granted here in Canada.
And the Liberals haven't done much to deport alleged Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps IRGC-linked officials. What would you do differently to get deportations done quickly and accurately?
It shouldn't be hard. Many of these IRGC terrorists are here as visitors. They have no permanent status in this country. Members of the community spot these terrorists in gyms and in other public settings. They live in fancy mansions in the Greater Toronto and Greater Vancouver area, and yet somehow, even though everyday Canadians of Persian descent are able to identify where these terrorists live, somehow our own law enforcement can't find a way to do that. They should find them, arrest them, and deport them so that our Persian, our Jewish, and all other communities can enjoy peace and tranquility in this country. Thank you.
Rami Boutros, Oxygen Media. Despite of the painful realities that you just mentioned on the economy and how it is not growing in the right way, and no light at the end of the tunnel for the US-Canada negotiations, the recent polls shows that Canadians still in favor of Mr. Carney and the Liberal Party. My question is why?
So the first part of the question is on the Canada-US file?
Canada-US negotiations, no light at the end of the tunnel. Still they in favor and support him.
Well, nobody can tell anybody what Mr. Carney's position is. He says on Sunday that trade between Canada and the US is our weakness, and then he says yesterday that he believes that Canada and the US are stronger together. He said that we're in a permanent rupture with the US a few weeks back, and then his ambassador said yesterday that we need more economic integration. So it's not just that we don't know Mr. Carney's strategy, we don't even know his goal. From day to day, he contradicts himself wildly and recklessly, and either he's doing it because he has no idea what his plan is, or because he's using sensational language to distract from the higher cost crime and corruption that his own government has enabled here at home. I would like the Prime Minister to get back to the focus, which is that we need to have solid trade and a strong tariff-free relationship with the biggest customer in the world on whom we depend for 2.6 million jobs. And that is what I've put forward as a plan. I have a very detailed plan to build up our leverage and use that leverage to regain tariff-free access with our biggest customer to save those 2.6 million jobs so that the steel workers, auto workers, lumber workers, aluminum workers can go home to their children at night and say, we have an income, we can pay our mortgage, you can play hockey this year, and we can have a nice family vacation.
Do you think the media will play or playing a role in forgetting and let the Canadians forget about their painful living cost and offer something that Mr. Carney is not showing in the economy?
Well, we can't be distracted from the issues that we control here at home. I mean, are we really going to let ourselves be distracted into continuing with the same Liberal policies that have driven up our cost of living, making it destroyed home ownership for an entire generation of youth, driven 2.2 million people to the food bank, unleashed crime and chaos on our streets? We control all of those things. And we cannot let President Trump distract us from our ability to control our own destiny on affordability, on jobs, on safety in our streets.
Gurjeet Kaur from Hamdard Media. As we all know, Canadians are struggling a lot nowadays. So what message do you have for working class families, specifically in GTA, struggling with affordability and transportation cost?
Well, my message is that it doesn't have to be this way. Before this Liberal government, people in the GTA could afford homes and food. They didn't need to line up at food banks. They felt safe in their streets. We didn't have extortionists shooting bullets through children's windows in the middle of the night. This is all the result of a decade of disastrous and reckless Liberal policies that Justin Trudeau brought in and Mark Carney has continued with. After a year of Mark Carney, what do we have? More costs, more crime, more corruption, more of the same. He's just another Liberal. If you want a change to restore an affordable, safe, and strong Canada, only the Conservatives will deliver that change.
Hi, this is Abhav from Y Media. What do you have to say about PM Carney's recent comments about the U.S.-Canada relationship?
Well, which comments? It's hard to keep track.
About U.S. dictating terms and not just being irreluctant on the relationship between the U.S.-Canada.
Well, Mark Carney promised that he'd have a deal by July of last year, and ever since that time, he has allowed the American administration to dictate terms. American tariffs on lumber, steel, and aluminum have doubled and in some cases tripled. They've also broadened. And what has Mr. Carney done in return? Other than give speeches and put out YouTube videos, he has achieved nothing but give us the only shrinking economy in the G7. So it's enough. We've had enough illusions and drama from Mark Carney. We actually need results. We need to start judging Mark Carney by the results, not the rhetoric.
Thank you so much.
All right.
This concludes today's press conference.
We've exhausted all the questions. Thank you very much for coming. Zero tax on gas. Thank you.